Hey everyone, welcome back to my workbench. Sorry about that. So tonight I'm just working on the new IntelliVision True 16 Ultimate. Um, uh, want to let you in on a little secret of how I got this to work. And the key is I didn't invent anything. Sounds funny. However, all I do, when I was developing this 216 controller is I actually reverse engineered the original IntelliVision controller design, and electromechanically it's more or less identical except for the ironically just the push buttons. So the only ones that are actually uh, slightly different in how they did it originally with Mattel. So I happen to have a busted IntelliVision 2 controller, and you could see it's really interesting how they did the whole 16 directions. And I think there's a reason. I've seen people complaining a little bit about with the IntelliVision Sprint, the major axes are really touchy, and I'll explain why in a second. On the original controller, how they do it, this is actually 3 layers of membranes in here. There's and not just that, they're electrically separated as well. You can actually see these little electrical separations here, 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 and here. So say when you press the up direction here, there's a actuator that comes down and presses it, and that'll get you your, it actually brings bit 2 low when you do the up direction. Let me look at my logic diagram. Where's my logic? There it is. Okay, so when you do your up direction, which is usually called direction 1, what happens is this will just bring this low. So there's actually 2 membranes of it. And as you move over, as the actuator rolls over, it continues to, has pin 2 low, 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 low until it hits this section here. This section actually starts at about 22.5 degrees and ends a little bit after 45 degrees. But during this initial section here, you'll have bit 2 will go low, and bit 9 will go low. Well, line 9. I don't know what they in the diagnostic software. I think it shows up as 5. But then this will go during this section. You have 2 pins, and that tells okay, I am up in northeast. And then what would traditionally hit here, this would traditionally be just your up and your right actuator. But in this case, your up, right, and your secondary deck here, well, secondary line here, you see it's that strange section in here, is activated. And that means you're going to have line 2 and line 3 and line 9 are all being pulled low, which tells it you're and traditionally this would just be a diagonal, but in this case it's all 3. So when you move to the next position, what happens is you roll off of this section here, and then what would normally be upright is east, east northeast, yeah, east northeast. So you're almost in the east direction, and this is because you've come off of this roller section. So when I was developing the controller, I didn't actually like invent anything new here. What I was doing was just reverse engineering with modern parts the same thing. And if you see, it's kind of funny. If you see the angles here, those look awfully familiar because on the deck I created, if you in the same orientation would be in the system, you actually see, you can just about see it sneaking out there right here. is one of the switches. I tried to mark it. Yeah, mark it there. And you'll notice if you line up the cardinal points, it's very, very, very close to what this is. And there's a little difference because the size of my actuator is a little bit different because I'm using the actuator on the joystick to do it, the original joystick. But electrically, it does the same darn thing. It's really kind of neat. And this is why I think some of the people who are having some complaints with the Sprint being too touchy is they have 16 directions apparently, but they did it where they're going to have to do it with logic instead of with software instead of hardware. So they went through and did they have 8 separate switches, which will give you 16 directions just fine. But because they did it differently than the original controller, their actuator, the way it's going to roll in and out, is going to make it really you're going to bop from a cardinal direction to this direction very easily. So you have this a little off axis here. I think it's going to be touchier than the original design they had here. So this has the advantage is you have a really you have a pretty decent wedge here of cardinal point. So you're not gonna accidentally roll into the off-axis direction. So in 4-direction games, I can see this being pretty touchy. I don't know how big their actuator is going to have to be. I have a feeling they're going to start picking up. Maybe I'll buy one of them. Or I have a feeling they're going to start picking up off-axis, because this is at 22.5 degrees, and it comes in about 18.5 degrees. They'll start coming in. I have a feeling they're going to be coming at about 12 degrees. You start getting some off-axis. So yeah, that's the disadvantage, because when they did it this way, because they're using 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 switches instead, what happens is you're going to have a hard time. Well, you're going to electronically. Well, it's a wireless controller. You can do whatever software they want. Oh, my color's off today. Let's see. That's better. So what's going to happen is you're going to get a off-axis. The way they have to do it electronically. So you don't have, of course, in the original system, there's only 5 switches basically, because the second deck actually is all electrically the same switch. And you can see even here, all 4 of these are actually wired to the same line. In this case, they have to do it with software, where it's going to have to emulate the traditional coding that it had. So I think that's why they're seeing a little bit. I've seen a couple posts complaining about the touchiness on like 4-direction games. I'm sure in games that require all 16 directions, it's great, but I think you're going to be a little touchy playing in like 4-direction games. You're going to be coming off axis really easily, depending on how well they designed the actuator on their pad. So without actually ripping it apart, having one ripping it apart, that's my best guess what's going on. And I did see a picture of someone, they took the pad off, and they had 8 discrete micro switches in there. So that is going to cause problems with some of your off-axis stuff. So that's probably why they're seeing the touchiness. But again, the way that True 16 works is electrically the same solutions that Mattel came up with originally. Is the way this is split out. That's how they have this one line here and going low to tell that it's in that little notchy direction, and what traditionally would be a major axis, and then when you come off, what would traditionally be a diagonal is actually slightly off from there. Kind of a neat solution. It was interesting trying to duplicate it. I have to admit, in my version 1.0, a little sketch, because what happened was I was just trimming this actuator down to being just at the nub here. So what's happening is I would get too soon of engagement in one direction and too late of a disengagement in the other direction, so it would skip or do a quick reverse, and that was why I was having problems. So once I got rid of this, there's a bar that would go here, that's gone. Once I get rid of that, I can really control my angle of engagement and disengagement. So again, Didn't invent anything new. I just copied, I just reverse engineered what the original controller was. Even with the keypads, the magic with the keypads is they did, this is actually two keypads stacked on top of each other. So you have your columns and your rows, and then you have a grounding layer underneath. So you actually have three layers. And I just, if you use two keypads, you can do the same thing. One's just the columns, one's just the rows. So that electrically, that's the same as the original keypad as well. The only difference is on the buttons, because I don't have two discrete. The button only has, it's just a on-off switch, so I don't have two discrete lines I can do. So each of these need two discrete lines, so you just do diodes instead. So you have diodes, diodes, and diodes. These two are actually electrically identical. This is switch 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, that's the only difference between this controller and mine, is it uses diodes. But to the IntelliVision, you don't care. But yeah, keypad's identical. Electrically, the 16-way pad and the joystick electrically do the same thing at the same angles. So this is actually, this open one here is actually what inspired me to think, if I had a second deck, I can emulate what they did. And plus, I saw a logic diagram for how it worked, but it's like, yeah, that's how they did it. They added this little extra thing to tell you, yeah, you're a little off. So that's where that comes from. So Atari, with the new IntelliVision, the Sprint, has to do this in software, so it knows, okay, if I have this actuator and this actuator, I'm doing this. So they're going to have a pretty wide actuator just to emulate this, or maybe like a rolling actuator. I don't know how they did it. It'd be interesting to open one up. But yeah, you're going to get some real touchy cardinal point action there. So all new right now. I'm just wiring up the this controller. This is the one that's going to have the discrete. This is going to be actually have a second connector you can plug into the second port. That was the last video did. I tested out. Yes, indeed. If the advantage is you can shoot and run at the same time, so that should help anyone who likes Night Stalker. And Tron. The only problem with Tron, I don't have. That one actually uses diagonals and it uses this, so I don't know about that one. But for most games, I'm sure it's going to be very helpful to do that. And yeah, so I'm working on that now, and then this should be done with this tomorrow. Knock on wood. And then I have another one of this to make, which is going to be Steers Super Video Arcade themed. So it's going to have the electrically, it's going to be the same, but it's going to have black, 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 and it's going to have the little vinyl stripes across the top and the wood grain across the front to make it look more like the Super Video Arcade. Electrically, same thing. It's just different colors. But yeah, and then after this one, probably I'll get this one done, then I'll work on this, and then I'll work on. I got a couple Ataris to finish up, and then I'm gonna go swap this, go back to working on the controllers. What do I have? I have a bit of backlog now. Everyone, thank you for your orders. It's just a little backlog right now with all the people have the holiday spirit. I got like 5 orders like right before Christmas, like during the Christmas week or just before the Christmas week. So it's getting worked on. I have everything. I've been trying to reorganize my workshop a little bit. On the back of that board behind me is a bunch of bins I split out, and then in the I created these Kanban boxes basically. So the work order goes in there, and then it's accumulate all the parts in one spot, and then once it's done, I pull the packing slip out and ship it off. But again, working away on this guy, it'll be. I gotta put a few more screws in there. But yeah, working on this little guy, and this will be more soldering tonight. I'm not going to bore you with solder work because it's not very exciting. And then just some fast-ons, and then this guy, I'm going to have to do some diode work for these guys too, because again, only one electrical connection, you need to make 2 spots, so no big deal. Just I'll show that off tomorrow night. And it's a windstorm right now. Goodness, I'm glad my noise gate's on my microphone. Otherwise, you'd hear. I have a brick house and it's still like rattling. It's kind of scary. So, everyone, thanks for watching, and I'm going to be finishing this guy up, and I'll demo it. I want to finish this up and demo it tomorrow and knock out some of those Atari controllers too while I'm at it. And everyone have a, it's not quite New Year's yet, it's only the 28th, so Happy New Year's. I should have at least one or two more videos before then. So everyone, thank you for watching and have a great day.